Back in 1986, on the eve of Sun Valley's 50th anniversary, Sun Valley Resort decided it needed a special way to commemorate its golden anniversary. What better way than an ice sculpture featuring Sun Valley's trademark sun? They brought in a Bellevue metalsmith and artist named Mark Srihan, and every December you can find him out here toiling in 10-degree temperatures, keeping warm with cups of coffee, carving out a 14-foot sculpture. Recently, Mark brought his son, 20-year-old Sean Srihan, into the picture, and now Sean and his dad work hand in hand creating these sculptures. And you know, the biggest question people have is, how do you do it? Let's find out.
My name is Mark Srihan. I've been a resident of Blaine County for since 1970. 72 it was. I moved here in 72, and I'm schooled as my college years were spent 3 years in an art school. So I know about photography, I know about painting, I know about sculpture, lots of different things. But when I moved here, I focused my energy into metal, and I got lucky. One of my roommates from college came from Ketchum, and so he arranged to meet with one of his friends who had a house that needed a fire screen. And I knew how to weld, and I knew how to grind, and I had a good sense of design, but I'd never built anything like that before. And so I gave her a fire screen. She loved it. And that was the beginning, and that was back in 1972. My neighbor turned out to be a climbing buddy. We went into all kinds of adventures in the Sawtooth, and he happened to be the head of snowmaking. And so he's sitting in on this round table. He knows my art background. He knows I play with ice for recreationally with the ice climbing. And so he kind of went, I have an idea. Why don't you contact Mark Srihan? And they did, and that's what got me started here. We did a variety of different snow sculptures, and in fact, I don't think we did the sun until quite a bit later, like several years later. But once we discovered the sun, that was it. We just ran with it, and it's been 30 plus years of building that sun over and over and over. So I've been kind of biting the bullet, and then one day I'm stepping back to get the long view to fix the mistakes, and walking back and forth, chiseling here and there, and this woman came up to me and said, "Oh, what are you doing?" And I said, "Well, I'm fixing the problem." She says, "Oh, there's two artists here." What do you mean by two artists? I don't understand. She said, well, there's one artist that's fixing all the little details, and the other artist that's over there saying, hey, enough is enough, it's done. And I realized she was right. She was absolutely right. Don't look too close. Nobody else is going to see what you see. Just let it go. It's interesting. We've developed some techniques about how to remove snow efficiently. And so instead of chipping away at all of these little, and taking forever to make anything shape, I've learned how to use the chainsaw to cut narrow slices repeatedly, and it's exhausting making the cuts. But once you do, then you just take a hammer and break them off. And it's already got the slope, and it works great. And so we've worked out all the, and it's kind of interesting how these different techniques have evolved over the years. It used to take me a week to make this thing, and now it takes me 2 days. All the little kids come up and they're just going, ooh, 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 how do you do that? How do you do that? And I said, well, you know how to make a snowman, don't you? It's the same thing. You just pack the snow on, except that we saturate it with water, so it's a slush ball, and but it's moldable, and it's so easy to push the snow around when it's got all of that water in it. And so it's a very natural thing, actually. But it's not something everybody practices, because when you make a snowman, you don't pour water on it. The primary tool, implement of destruction, if you will, is the chainsaw. In this case, it's an electric chainsaw, which is very light, and it's not as exhausting as using the old-fashioned gas-powered chainsaw. So this is the preferred version, and that makes things happen pretty fast. This is a plywood template I made for repeating the rays that surround the face. This is it used to be a carpenter's hatchet for putting shingles on a roof. And I reforged it. Being a blacksmith, I reforged it, modified it, and it's been in my quiver of ice tools for years, many years. This one is it's a handmade Cooper's adze for making kegs, wooden kegs, not aluminum, wood, oak specifically. And I adapted it for my purposes, but I bought it at an antique store, or show rather. And it's a wonderful collectible, which happens to work really well for my snow. And a variety of other carving tools, chisels in this case. Here I recycled the cutting blade that the Zamboni uses at the ice rink. And it's got really hard steel, holds a good edge. This little homemade device is essentially a cookie cutter that I can use to carve the pupil into the iris of the snow sculpture. It's very, very efficient, simple, expedient, cheap, and that goes in the quiver.
We'll be right back with Mark and Sean Srihan and the story of their fabulous sculptures.
Better food, better price, better service. Atkinson's Market, supporting local farmers since 1956.
Let the event dazzle your guests by creating a sensational experience. Let the event take your party over the top.
Your job is serving clients, making goals and meeting them, hiring staff, paying expenses, and looking for business opportunities. Our job is to make sure you have the resources to keep doing your job. This is Community Banking, D.L. Evans Bank.
Welcome back. You know, the Srihans over the years have made a large number of ice and snow sculptures in the Sun Valley Mall area as well. One of the most memorable was that of a train which reflected the Union Pacific era at Sun Valley.
If you look at, Union Pacific put out endless quantities of Union Pacific calendars, and every photograph was one of their trains going in some scenic somewhere, but they always had it coming at the camera, and it was a classic perspective. And so we built the train to look like it was getting smaller and smaller and smaller as the last cars were approaching the camera. And so we built it that way. And so we went from 8 feet tall with a doorway and a staircase up to the top of this 8-foot block of snow, and then it tapered off. It was, 50 feet long, and we glazed it with ice. We added water to it to make it especially hard, and it was made in front of the inn, and the restaurant there had bus trays, and the kids would come in and steal the bus trays and use them for sleds. They didn't like that.
Hi, I'm Sean Srihan. So, I've been doing this since I could walk, basically. I remember I would come and just push all the blocks of ice into the water. Dad wouldn't let me anywhere near the chainsaw, so my duty was pretty much designated as just ice pusher. Oh, I thought it was the coolest thing. I mean, it's just a big snowman, right? Eventually it became the norm. It's just a family tradition. I'm used to it at this point. It's still cool, but it's like, yeah, it's the snow sculpture. It's nothing new. We'll take the chainsaw and we'll carve out the eye and the mouth, like the deep parts, and then build on top of it with the slush so we can get the depth. And we, like on the bottom eyelid, we'll make it really steep so it catches the light just right and it really pops out. It basically accentuates the features so you can see it better in the light. It just catches the light better, pops out more. About 2 years ago when I think it was 18, I started helping my dad in more of an apprentice sort of way. Then 19, I was the partner, and here I'm basically the partner again. It's part of the family tradition. I mean, like, I'm the next step or the next person in line to do the snow sculpture. I mean, it's incredibly satisfying to see it done and see it all complete, aside from the imperfections, but it's just really gratifying seeing what used to be a giant block of snow and now it's something that we created. So we also did some ice sculptures in the village. Another guy came in and started them and we had to come finish them. So we come in with no tools for working on ice because we're used to the snow sculpture. We've never really done ice before. So we're standing there for the first hour like, how are we gonna get this done? And the chainsaw, it doesn't quite cut the ice as fast as we want it to. And I just take the chisel and I'm like, I wonder if this works. And I just take a piece off and I'm like, oh, yeah, this works really well. So it's just like really repetitive, chiseling every piece off, making sure the Christmas tree is symmetrical. That was the hardest part.
Just think, Sean wasn't even born when his father started making these sculptures. It was about 14 years of building these sculptures before Sean came along. I hope you enjoyed learning how the Srihans build these fabulous sculptures. I'm Karen Bostic with Eye on Sun Valley. Until next time, I'm keeping my eye on Sun Valley for you.